Coming up on this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast, in a big surprise, Tesla is reportedly working on adding Apple CarPlay to its vehicles. Plus, Tesla sweeps the global EV sales charts for September. Ford CEO Jim Farley says his company was shocked when they took apart a Tesla Model 3, and more. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you as I always do every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific for another episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast. This one is releasing on November 16th, 2025. It's episode 537. To my left, looking calmly out the window, is Daisy the Boxer, and chewing on a toy that might start squeaking at some point is Lily the silly Labrador puppy. And I wanted to apologize to all of you up front this week. If I sound a little tired or low energy, it's Lily the Labrador's fault, because the poor dog, actually I feel really bad for her. She ate something yesterday and ended up in the middle of the night with an unfortunate situation in her crate that required immediate attention. Let me just phrase it that way. So I was up from like 3:30 to 4 a.m. this morning, and I'm starting to feel it now. Like, I was able to get through the workday okay, but now I'm starting to run out of fuel, and I'm ready for bed. But I've got a very chock full of action episode here of Ride the Lightning for you. First, I'm going to start with this one. This was a bit of a surprise this week. Maybe not so much in isolation, but for the story that will immediately follow it together, they are a little bit surprising. So this first one is that the Cybertruck program manager at Tesla, who was also the Model 3 program manager, has departed Tesla. His name is Siddhant Awasthi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I've got that correct. And he posted on X saying, "I recently made one of the hardest decisions of my life to leave Tesla after an incredible run. 8 years ago, when I started as an intern, I never dreamed I'd one day have the opportunity to lead the Cybertruck program and bring it to reality. It's been an absolute privilege filled with mostly high-intensity days working alongside talented, driven, and truly rock star colleagues across Tesla. I want to extend a huge thanks to Elon, all Tesla leaders past and present, mentors, and our amazing customers, huge shout out in parentheses, who've fueled my drive and kept me pushing forward through it all. It's tough to sum up 8 years in just a few lines, but what a thrilling journey it's been. Ramping up Model 3, working on Giga Shanghai, developing a new electronics and wireless architectures, and delivering the once-in-a-lifetime Cybertruck, all before hitting 30. The icing on the cake was getting to dive back into the Model 3 work toward the end. This decision wasn't easy, especially with so much exciting growth on the horizon. Tesla vehicles are incredibly complex systems that often don't get the credit they deserve, but I've witnessed firsthand how they've changed lives for our customers, my friends, and my family, adding real value and, above all, improving safety. I'm confident Tesla will nail its next big mission, especially after last week. He's there referring to the presentation that Elon gave at the annual shareholder meeting. And he concludes by saying, "And I'm truly excited for the next chapter of my life." So, first of all, this gentleman was the Model 3 program manager in his early 20s. That's crazy. He must be an absolute rock star, just one of those wunderkind people that comes in and is just, you can just tell right away, is special. And that alone makes it sad to see him go as somebody that owns 2 Model 3s. And then, even though, okay, yes, the Cybertruck sales have been quite a bit below what certainly Tesla had hoped, and definitely what people like me thought they would be, you can't fault the truck itself. It is absolutely jam-packed with genuine next-gen tech that makes the Cybertruck an absolute joy to drive and to live with. So, boy, what a resume for Siddhant here. That is, he'll probably not have any trouble getting a job anywhere else should he decide to join another company, or maybe he'll decide to start his own thing, and who knows what he's going to be up to. I'm sure we'll hear about it at some point whenever he decides to pop his head back up above water and let us all know. For all we know, he might be taking a good bit of time off. It seems like, I'm not in the tech world per se. I'm tangentially involved as a media member, somebody that covers it. Although even there, it's like I do this in my spare time, and for my day job, I cover the video game space, which is definitely a different world than the actual like Silicon Valley tech world. And my point in saying all that is that in that space, it certainly seems to be fairly common that when folks leave a high-profile position after a long time at a company, they take some time to themselves because they typically can afford to, and then eventually they pop back up. So I'm not expecting to hear from Siddhant again like in the next couple weeks or this year, but maybe sometime next year he'll post again and let the world know what he is up to. But again, just what a resume for him. Absolutely incredible. Now, it's entirely possible that he's chosen to leave because he's just burned out, and or his stock compensation, which I imagine had added up as he moved up the company, has matured to such a point that he's sitting on a huge stack of well-deserved cash and just doesn't want to go all out hardcore 24/7 anymore, which is what Tesla seems to demand. He even alluded to it in his post there. I don't know, maybe he's starting a family or has started a family and he just doesn't want to do the 24/7 grind anymore. But whatever the case may be, he has certainly earned a lot of praise, a lot of respect, and certainly as somebody with 2 Model 3s, again, as it's such a great privilege for our family to have 2 of them, I owe him a tip of the cap for sure. Now, the other slightly more selfish and depressing thought here is, I know I try to be optimistic with this podcast, and I think most of the time I am, but I've got to share this as well because I think it's a fair thing to bring up. So the slightly more selfish and definitely more depressing thought here, that's hopefully not the case, but maybe he's leaving because there are no other new vehicles to work on at Tesla. That after the Roadster, they're just going to keep SX, 3Y, Cybertruck, and Cybercab, and there isn't a big new vehicle challenge for him to take on. And I also acknowledge it could be some combination or even all of those things. It could be burnout, it could be family, it could be he's got plenty of money. It could be because there are no vehicles. It could be any and all of those or some combination thereof. So whatever the case, I certainly, again, wish him the best. And boy, doing all of that before 30, that's pretty darn impressive. Now, that wasn't the only notable departure at Tesla this week. The Model Y program manager also announced his departure this past week as well. I saw this written up on Teslarati, who wrote, Emmanuel Lamacchia has been in the role for almost 5 years, responsible for the rollout of the all-electric crossover in several markets. He announced his departure on LinkedIn saying, quote, after 8 incredible years, I'm moving on from Tesla. What a journey it's been. From leading NPI for Model 3 and Model Y variants, I'm not quite sure what NPI means, to becoming the vehicle program manager for Model Y, the best-selling car in the world, he adds with a well-deserved exclamation mark. Leading the all-new Model Y launch was the highlight, converting all 4 factories across 3 continents in just 2 weeks, something that had never been done before in the auto industry. To the teams who made this possible, you should be incredibly proud. This achievement belongs to you, the engineers, designers, buyers, and associates in Fremont, Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin who turned an impossible timeline into reality. Grateful to the leaders who trusted me with programs that stretched my capabilities, and to the cross-functional partners who showed me that great solutions come from collaboration, not hierarchy. Tesla taught me how to move fast without breaking things, and how to scale from prototypes to millions of units. Excited for what's next, more to share soon." End quote. So I think you can take most of what I just said about Sedant, and it could apply to Emmanuel also. So that's where I come back to what I said at the very top there. Taken individually, these two notable departures aren't necessarily anything to really quote unquote worry about if you're a Tesla fan, Tesla shareholder, etc. But admittedly, both of these happening at the same time, it does send up a yellow flag for me. Not a red flag. Could be nothing. Could just be a coincidence. Could be, who knows? It's not necessarily a red flag, but a yellow one, caution flag, yes. Again, it could also be clear internally at Tesla that, as I was saying, there simply are no more new vehicle programs to work on, and I sure hope it's not that. But regardless, I really do wish both of these gentlemen the very best. They worked really hard and have a lot to be proud of. Speaking of vehicle program managers, we did hear from one at Tesla this week who is still at the company. His name is Dan Priestley, and he heads up the Tesla Semi team. He posted on X after the annual shareholder meeting that revealed the redesign, as I was telling you about on last week's podcast, the redesign for the Semi. And he took to X and said, quote, "Immense number of improvements in next year's Semi stemming from pilot fleet learnings and amazing innovations from the Tesla teams working on it," end quote. And then an X user responded to Dan's post there and asked him, quote, "Can't wait to see it on the roads. Will you use it next year at Giga Texas to haul new cars to the railroads?" To which Dan kindly responded to that user, quote, "Tesla will be the first customer as we electrify our supply chain. This includes Texas operations." So in other words, yes, is the answer to that X user's question. So Tesla itself will get the first final production Tesla Semi trucks that are being spit out, or that will be spit out of the Giga Nevada Semi factory. And that's not really new information, really, as Tesla's been saying that for years, including, in fact, they've not just said it, they've shown it too. Tesla's been using the original two prototypes for years to do everything from haul parts back and forth between Giga Nevada and the Fremont factory to actually delivering cars to customers. So those prototypes have been getting plenty of run at Tesla as well. And now the imminent final, the 1.0 version of the Tesla Semi that'll be going into production next year, Tesla will be putting those to internal use as well. So I think the better question is, what external customer that's not Tesla gets the first production trucks? Well, my mind there would go straight to PepsiCo, since of course they've been Tesla's biggest partner in the pilot program. But then again, it's also possible that PepsiCo got their full order of trucks. They were clearly okay with being essentially beta testers, and they're going to be good just continuing to run those pilot trucks around until they reach end of life after however many hundreds of thousands or millions of miles on those vehicles. So it does remain to be seen which customer that's not Tesla will be the first one to run that 1.0 build out in the real world. Before I get to this week's main story about Apple CarPlay, I wanted to mention this week's Lightning Round mini episode that I do exclusively for all of the wonderfully generous folks supporting me over on Patreon. I hope those of you with access to that enjoyed this week's lightning round. It was about my newly updated method for washing my car. So if you're a detail-oriented person with your car like me, somebody that likes their car clean, I hope you'll enjoy that, maybe get some good information out of it, and maybe something that you want to try in your own car detailing routine. So anybody that's with me on Patreon at that most popular tier, that's the $10 per month tier or higher, has access not just to that lightning round mini episode, but all of them. And there are over 160 of them now. You can find them on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast, or just click the link in the episode description. A friendly reminder that the lightning rounds aren't all you get at that most popular $10 per month tier. You also get an ad-free episode every week, and you get early access to that ad-free episode every week. If $10 is a no-go for you, I do have a $5 tier as well, where you'd still very much be supporting the podcast, and you'd still get the ad-free and the early access to that ad-free. So again, please consider a pledge. You'd really be helping me and my family out over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Don't forget there's a 10% discount if you are so kind as to do an annual pledge, a single pledge to support for an entire year. You'll get a 10% discount there. Patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. And one more thing before I move on. If your factory Tesla warranty, your 4-year, 50,000-mile warranty from the factory is expiring or about to expire or has already expired, what's next? You know, you don't want to be worrying about something like a dead battery, flat tire, some roadside surprise. That means when your factory coverage ends, the higher risk begins, and that is where my friends at XCare come in with their XCare EV protection plans, their extended warranty plans. It is the #1 rated EV warranty. Just ask ChatGPT or Grok, and they will tell you the XCare plan is the best one. I'm a 2-time customer now. I've had one, and now I've renewed it. XCare covers what others don't, from EV battery and drive unit repairs to towing, rental coverage, and 24/7 roadside help. Because if and when your EV stops, XCare doesn't. Check your vehicle's eligibility today at xcare.com, or talk to a real person about it right now at 844-755-4186. That's xcare.com, or call 844-755-4186 and drive with confidence. Let's get to our main story this week, which comes in the form of a new report that says that Tesla is working on adding Apple CarPlay to its vehicles. I saw this on Reuters, who wrote, Tesla is developing support for Apple's CarPlay system in its electric vehicles, Bloomberg News reported this week, marking a potential shift in the carmaker's long-standing resistance to third-party software integration. The company's potential adoption of CarPlay, which allows users to control iPhone features such as navigation, music, and messaging through a vehicle's built-in display, would mark a major departure from its preference for its own ecosystem to maintain control over the in-car experience. Tesla has discussed rolling out CarPlay in the coming months, but the plan is not yet finalized and the release could be delayed, the report said, citing people familiar with the matter. The report also said Tesla plans to integrate CarPlay within a window inside its existing interface, which could mean Apple's software would not fully replace Tesla's operating system as it does in many other vehicles. Well, there you go. That one, I'll tell you, I did not have that on my bingo card for any point ever. It's like if I had a bingo card with potential Tesla headlines on it, I would not be Xing off that square because I would not have had that square. CarPlay in Tesla appears to, I mean, it's like I know this sounds like I'm exaggerating, but when I first saw this, like I first saw the headline on social media, I almost literally could not believe it until I saw that it ultimately came from Bloomberg, who, again, there's no guarantee. I can't say with 100% certainty that this is real, but Bloomberg is a serious news organization that doesn't just print gossip. So this is coming from somewhere, and so that's when I went, oh, so wait, this might actually be real? And then after I saw it, later that day, a reliable Tesla source reached out to me unprompted to mention it and to corroborate the report, just again to me personally, and they gave me a specific detail that I'm just respectfully not going to share here because I don't want to risk sort of giving any indication of who this person is or where in the company they work. But let me just say, it was corroborating evidence to, not that Bloomberg needs little me corroborating their report, but if it helps you believe it, because it did help me believe it, a Tesla source offered me some additional corroborating evidence to this. And so, yeah, this is seemingly happening. Now, look, I mean, we all know it was in that Reuters story that I read you there. We all know that Tesla has always gone its own way. And understandably so, Tesla's software, Tesla's user experience is really good. I don't think very many people out there would really complain about what the experience is like software-wise in a Tesla in terms of, well, really in terms of any piece of it. I guess it's probably the number one thing that anybody might complain about if we were to survey, like Family Feud style. Just find 100 people, survey them. What is the most annoying thing to you about the Tesla user experience? And then it would be, number one answer would almost certainly be the lack of physical buttons. Because it doesn't really bother me. And you also have voice control at your fingertips on the steering wheel to just say, turn my seat heater on, or set the climate control to 64 degrees or whatever. But that's still a common one that I see, not just with Tesla, but as more and more cars go with more of a touchscreen based experience. But I'm getting a little sidetracked. Point is, in that Family Feud style survey, I'm not even sure that anything about the user experience in terms of like audio entertainment or what the, like, sort of what is offered in that front end in your car would even make that top five, that Family Feud top five of things that people might criticize. But that said, a lack of CarPlay or Android Auto, that might be the number two answer on that Family Feud board. So Tesla appears to be taking action against that. And I guess on the back of Tesla's software being really good, as I thought more about this, I think this move seems to me to be something that's very much aimed at people who don't already own a Tesla. I realized, wait, I think I'm looking at this from the wrong perspective. I'm looking at it, not wrong, but I'm looking at it from the perspective of a Tesla owner when I should be looking at it from the perspective of someone who's not yet a Tesla owner. Because those of us that own the cars, that drive the cars, which is most of you, I think most of you probably aren't clamoring for CarPlay or for Android Auto. I'm not saying that people haven't asked for it or that people wouldn't welcome it if it did show up, as it appears to be doing. But this does seem like something that Tesla's doing as a way to try and lure potential new customers, particularly when a lot of the rest, and maybe this is a coincidence or maybe it is by design, maybe if Tesla is zagging here while the rest of the industry zigs, we are right now witnessing a lot of major players, a number of major players in the auto industry purposefully moving away from CarPlay and Android Auto right now. So there's that. Tesla may just be deciding, okay, well, we stand to potentially gain a competitive advantage here if we were to offer this, so let's go ahead and do it. In fact, as I thought more about this, part of the impetus for doing this might be because the Standard 3 and Standard Y, which Tesla certainly hopes are going to draw a lot of people into Tesla's ecosystem, and they're going to sell a lot of Standard 3s and Ys, those cars have next to nothing in them in terms of audio entertainment. They don't even have FM radio. So maybe Tesla wants to give people not just any option for audio entertainment, but an attractive one that many people are already familiar with and comfortable with. In fact, kind of on that note, maybe familiarity and comfort might be at the heart of this for Tesla. Again, having this be such a surprise, they've always done their own thing software-wise, but maybe they're thinking, okay, with where we are on the EV adoption curve, we've reached now most, if not all, of the early adopters. Because quite frankly, I would probably be considered an early adopter. I mean, there are phases, there are levels to it, right? Like those of you out there that have an original Roadster, you're an OG, okay? You get extra street cred. Early Model S owners, you're on the next level. Early Model X owners, same thing. And then 3Y, it is certainly, the EV movement has happened in phases and it's slowly gotten bigger. But that, I wonder if Tesla feels like, okay, we've run out of the eager early adopters to sell to, and now we need to sell to the masses. And for them, they're not going to be as eager. We need to help lure them and convince them that to just try this, to make the switch from an internal combustion engine car to an electric vehicle. And so it's such, I've talked about this a million times, and those of you with Teslas or other EVs have already lived this. It is such a paradigm shift. It really is, to go from a gas car to a battery electric vehicle. It is a completely different experience. It does require a willingness to take on a new challenge of sorts, in that it's completely different from how you've always operated a vehicle. I mean, yes, there's still a steering wheel, there's still pedals, but there's still a door. but there's a lot that's different about the operation of the car, the fueling of the car, the fueling requirements and habits of the car. Meaning, like, you're charging you're charging to 80% most nights unless you've got an LFP vehicle, whereas a gas car, you just put the gas filler in at the gas station and squeeze the handle and turn the little lock thing on until it stops, until it's full. You don't do that in it. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So perhaps Apple CarPlay is something of a familiarity olive branch to that segment of customers, potential customers out there who have not yet made the switch to EV and need that sort of Linus's blanket from Peanuts to just kind of cling to, that security blanket. Oh, okay. If I buy a Tesla, I can just use CarPlay, and I've got my Apple ecosystem in there that I'm familiar with. And that may really make a difference out there for some potential customers. And I want to recognize here my non-American listeners. I know that Apple and iPhone is a much bigger deal. It's a much bigger piece of the market here in America versus worldwide. Like Europe, much more Android dominant. So hopefully, obviously this report only mentions CarPlay. America is Tesla's number one market. So it does make sense that Tesla would start with CarPlay, but I can't imagine it would end with CarPlay. I have to imagine that Android Auto would follow, probably fast follow, before, after not too long. But as Lily's just walking around with, of course, a heavy toy that she wants to drop on the ground and make noise as I'm trying to record. But this is, again, such a surprise, such a potentially big deal. I mean, in fact, I think I'm going to run a Patreon poll this week. So if you want to stop by and vote in the Patreon poll, which is always free, doesn't require supporting me, doesn't require giving me a dime on Patreon. It's free and open to everybody. If you stop by the Patreon page for this week's poll, I'm going to make it about Apple Play. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to word the question, but it'll be CarPlay related, because I want to get a sense of what all of you think of this as existing Tesla owners or existing Tesla enthusiasts, and how exciting or not this might be to you. And then last point on this, if I were a betting man, I would wager that the Tesla team is working extremely hard to try and deliver this in the holiday software update, which should be out in about a month or so. Now, I fully recognize the very report I just read to you said that there's no immediate timeline on this. It could get delayed. Yeah, it says the rolling out in the coming months, but Q4 is Tesla's and every car maker's biggest quarter. It does make sense for the Tesla software team to prioritize this and try to make it into the holiday software update so that they can start really getting the word out on this right away as people are shopping for vehicles during that big Q4 season. So stay tuned. This is a very pleasant surprise, and we'll see what happens from here. Next up this week, Tesla sweeps the global EV sales charts for the month of September with, of course, the Model Y and then the Model 3 on top. I saw this on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, Tesla continues to dominate the global electric vehicle market, claiming both the top spots in worldwide EV sales for September of 2025. According to data compiled by Clean Technica and shared on X by user XFreeze, the Model Y once again secured the number one position with 140,904 units sold worldwide, while the Model 3 followed in second place with 67,374 units delivered globally. Now, what's interesting to me about this isn't necessarily that Tesla's on top, and in fact, they're on top, as you heard there, by a long shot in the Model Y's case, even over its own sibling, the Model 3. But what's interesting to me is what the rest of this list looks like. So the entire rest of the top 15, all of it, is Chinese EVs. So 3 through 15 is all Chinese EVs. There's not a single other American car company on this list, or a European car company, for that matter. Again, we're just talking EVs here, but still. And then numbers 5 through 12 and 15, not only are those positions all Chinese EVs, they're all one brand, BYD. So in terms of overall volume, BYD is actually beating Tesla quite handily. BYD's cumulative total just from this top 15 list is over 291,000 cars compared to Tesla's 208,000. Now, the Model S, X, and Cybertruck aren't on this top 15 list, so they did contribute, but they wouldn't contribute much here, unfortunately, which is why they're not on the list. And then I must fully confess, I have no idea how many other models that BYD might have that could contribute to their number as well that just didn't make the top 15. But the point is BYD has gone to another level. Those of you outside of the United States are no doubt much more aware of this than I am. We literally do not have them here, and we probably, well, I won't say never will, but we probably won't anytime soon, and that's most likely going to be a bipartisan agreement there that the American auto industry doesn't want BYD coming into the American market because they could very easily undersell, underprice, and outsell, and really put the hurt on the American automotive. All right, Lily, I'm sorry, I think this is probably making a ton of noise. I'm sorry, Lily, I gotta take action. I gotta take this toy. I do apologize. I'm sorry, pups. You can find something else to chew on, I hope, that doesn't make noise. But anyway, BYD would probably cause a serious problem for the American automotive industry, and that's why, regardless of what political party is in charge in the United States, it doesn't seem like we're going to see BYD sold here anytime soon. But overall, Tesla is still clearly in excellent shape for the time being. Like, they're 1 and 2 by a mile. You heard Franz von Holzhausen on my most recent interview with him here just, a month ago, that Tesla is focusing on just a few vehicles and making them amazing versus making a whole bunch of vehicles that only, this one only sells a few units and that one only sells a few units, which, that strategy is working for BYD, but also Tesla's strategy is clearly working pretty well for them too. But it is safe to say, certainly, that true competition for Tesla has finally arrived, just not in the US. But on the global scale, yes, BYD is here, and they are a big deal. They are a very high volume EV automaker. And ultimately, that's a good thing, right? If we believe in Tesla's mission to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, you love to see especially in China, which I think, please don't quote me on this because I don't even have this in my notes. I'm just kind of riffing here. I have a memory of reading something some years back. I know already you're like, oh gosh, you're just pulling this out of your hat. But I believe that China is the most polluting country in terms of the air pollution in the world, which makes sense. They have 1 billion plus people there, right? But I believe China is number 1 in polluting, and I think the US is number 2, I think. So if BYD is just pumping out EVs, that's a good thing for the overall mission that Tesla has to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And Tesla here in the US certainly doing its part with the Model Y being the top-selling vehicle in the world for, the previous couple of years. Probably not going to be number 1 this year, but it's still going to be very, very high on that list, and Tesla's still pumping out. It's going to end up being 1.7 million units probably this year, thereabouts. We'll find out in about a month and a half exactly where Tesla lands, but that was a pretty cool story that Tesla is still on top on a global scale. In fact, I made non-Tesla EVs the subject of this week's Patreon poll, and it was purposefully an open-ended question, a not clearly defined question, which maybe people in the comments, a couple people in the comments were maybe looking for some more clear direction on this, but I purposely wanted this to be just a more open to interpretation question. So this week's Patreon poll question on my Patreon page, which again, totally free to vote in the poll every week. It's open to everybody. The question was, what non-Tesla company do you think makes the best EVs? And so again, I kind of wanted to leave that to you. Do you think that's styling? Do you think that's performance? Do you think that's efficiency? Do you think, however you wanted to think of it? I just wanted to ask the question. And 50% of you voted Rivian, with another 18% of you choosing Lucid and 14% of you choosing Hyundai/Kia, because they are the same company. And then almost nothing for a lot of the other choices, BMW, Ford, GM. 5% chose Porsche and 7% said other, because I knew I'd need an other on this one. And there was a lot of commentary. There were actually a lot of comments, 48 comments, and there were a lot of votes here, 328 votes in this week's poll. So thank you to everybody that took the time to stop by and vote. A lot of comments about BYD. And I had left them out of the, and not put them as a choice in the poll, just because, again, they are a blind spot for me. I don't know anything about them. And I know that those of you outside the US do, and I'm glad a bunch of you mentioned them in the comments. But here in the US, we don't have any visibility into BYD. So I thought that was a really interesting poll result this week. And yes, granted, probably most of my audience, the majority of my audience, is in the United States. And so the Rivian result makes a lot of sense, right? I can't disagree with that choice, even though, again, you could define best by any number of ways. But thank you to everybody that took the time to vote in this week's Patreon poll. On something of a similar topic to Chinese EVs, as I move now to other EV news, Ford CEO Jim Farley says taking apart Tesla and Chinese EVs was, quote, shocking, and pushed him to shake up the legacy automaker. I saw this story on Business Insider, who wrote, Ford CEO had an EV wake-up call after tearing apart cars from Tesla and its rivals in China. Speaking on the new episode of the Office Hours Business Edition podcast, Jim Farley said the, quote, shocking realization of how far ahead Elon Musk's automaker and China's EVs upstarts were pushed him to overhaul the company. Quote, I was very humbled when we took apart the first Model 3 Tesla and started to take apart the Chinese vehicles. When we took them apart, it was shocking what we found. The Detroit executive said Ford's Mustang Mach-E had around 1.6 kilometers more electrical wiring than the Tesla, adding extra weight to the car and requiring a much bigger and more expensive battery. Farley, who's led Ford since 2020, said the teardowns convinced him the company had to change to match its new rivals. Quote, we can't walk away from EVs, not just for the US, but if we want to be a global company. I'm not going to just cede that to the Chinese. To meet that new market, Ford is once again shifting its EV strategy. In August, which I already talked about this on the podcast, Farley unveiled a new EV production line that he said would help Ford beat BYD and Tesla. The first vehicle to roll off the retooled production line will be a $30,000 midsize truck, which is expected to launch in 2027. So, I read this story, and then I started trying to picture 1.6 kilometers for my fellow American friends. That's about exactly 1 mile. So a mile worth of wiring. And that's extra. That's not total. That's on top of what's in a Model 3 or the Chinese EVs. An extra mile worth of wiring. That is a lot. But hey, I'll say this about Mr. Farley. Good on him for recognizing that Ford was going to have to step up its game in order to better compete. And that mid-size truck that's due out in a couple years using their new EV production process, that is the evidence that Farley is walking the walk on that and not just paying lip service to it. So I, for one, am rooting for Ford to fully make the switch to EV and to do so successfully. Now, I know it will not be a 100% switchover for probably many, many years. And the reason for that is because It's not going to happen while the F-150 gas-powered truck continues to be the best-selling vehicle in America for literally decades running, and the market for the F-150 Lightning, the electric F-150, unfortunately just isn't there quite yet. But if Ford can successfully electrify everything else besides the gas-powered F-150s, boy, would that be fantastic to see. So I'm rooting for you guys, Ford, and for Mr. Farley, I think, Jim, that he good on him for admitting, little slice of humble pie that he was willing to eat publicly there, and just say, hey, yeah, I was shocked by what we found when we tore apart the Tesla and when we tore apart the Chinese EVs. So good on him for being open and honest about that. Next up this week in other EV news, J.D. Power reports. A J.D. Power report shows EV interest surging in the United States despite the end of the federal tax credit. Another tip of the cap to Drive Tesla Canada, who writes, according to the latest J.D. Power E-Vision Intelligence report for November 2025, while sales declined sharply following the repeal of the federal $7,500 EV tax credit, underlying demand and ownership loyalty remain robust, particularly among existing EV drivers. October marked the first full month without the federal incentive, and the impact was immediate. EV sales fell by 53%, dropping from 12.9% of total new vehicle sales in September to just 6% in October. Many buyers had rushed to complete purchases before the credit expired, creating an artificial sales spike that has now subsided. Analysts say the current downturn likely reflects a, quote, rebound effect rather than a long-term collapse in demand. Still, J.D. Power's findings suggest that the end of the tax credit will affect sales volumes for several months. Quote, the bottom will not fall out of the EV market, the report notes, pointing to strong loyalty among EV lessees and growing consumer awareness of the benefits of electric ownership. One of the most promising indicators for the industry is the high rate of repeat EV ownership. In 2026, approximately 243,000 franchise EV leases are expected to expire, more than triple the number in 2025. Based on current patterns, 62% of those returning lessees are likely to replace their vehicles with another EV. The 2025 U.S. Electric Vehicle Experience Ownership Study found that 94% of current EV owners plan to consider an EV for their next purchase or lease, with 79% saying they, quote, definitely will consider. This strong retention rate signals a deepening attachment to electric mobility among early adopters. While actual sales dipped, consumer intent is climbing. The number of active car shoppers who say they are, quote, very likely to consider an EV rose to 24.2% in October, its highest level since January of 2025. Overall, nearly 60% of potential buyers said they are at least, quote, somewhat likely to go electric in the next 12 months, a 2.6% increase from September. Well, those numbers certainly bode well for EVs overall. This is not a Tesla-specific report. And I can't help but wonder how much higher those last numbers, the 24% who are very likely to consider an EV and the 60% who are somewhat likely, how much higher those numbers would be if the $7,500 tax credit was still there. But what's done is done, so I'll simply take the optimistic road here. We've got the Model 3 Standard on the market now, Model Y Standard on the market now, the Chevy Equinox EV that's doing very well in the low 30s price point wise, the redesigned Nissan Leaf that's coming very, very soon. So there are some fairly affordable options out there in the marketplace. hopefully they help get more people into the EV tent. That's what we're looking for. Because as we've all found out, it's really nice in this tent once you're willing to step foot inside. Finally this week, in more other EV news, Volkswagen has announced that starting on November 18th, I had to think about for a second when this episode's publishing. So starting this week, owners of the Volkswagen ID4 and the ID Buzz will gain access to Tesla's expansive supercharger network in North America. Drive Tesla Canada had this, and they wrote, "The move allows Volkswagen's EV owners to plug into more than 25,000 Tesla superchargers across Canada and the United States, significantly expanding their charging options beyond Electrify America, Electrify Canada, and other CCS-based networks. To enable compatibility with Tesla's NACS, Volkswagen has developed a DC fast charging adapter that connects Tesla's NACS plug to the CCS ports used on VW's current EV lineup. The adapter will be available through Volkswagen dealers or online via the Volkswagen Virtual Parts Counter beginning on November 18th. For ID Buzz customers, adapters will be distributed directly through their selling dealers, while ID4 owners can purchase one for their vehicle." Well, I think this might be just about everybody now. Volkswagen might have been about the last big automaker to officially have access to the Tesla supercharging network. I can't think off the top of my head of anybody that's still out in the cold on this. And again, this is great for the EV movement, at least here in North America, because having access to all of those Tesla superchargers just goes a long way obviously for Tesla owners, but now for pretty much everybody else. It goes a long way towards eliminating or at least mitigating range anxiety, which, as we all know, is a crucial and understandable mental barrier for a lot of potential buyers, no matter what brand of EV a North American buyer is considering.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
It's time for your phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline. Yes, it's back after a little break last week because of the Tesla shareholder meeting. I've got plenty of your Ride the Lightning hotline phone calls queued up and ready to go. Got time for a few of them here. So if you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic for the podcast, I welcome and invite you to call in with it. Either way, however you call in, and I'm going to tell you the two ways here in a second, please try to keep your call to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible. Now, as for those two methods to call in, you can either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, and then send it my way via email, and that email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can simply dial up and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number. You can call it anytime, and the number is 1-888-989-8752. That number again is 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special out there with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is longtime listener and caller Brian from Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. Got a serious question here for you. Do you honestly feel that Tesla will solve full self-driving with vision only? And if you do you think they'll do it before someone else does who is using LiDAR and radar? Because it really does sound like GM with their Cruise is coming along pretty well with that. And also Rivian is making great strides with theirs as well. I just feel that, with a hardware 3 car here, we've been waiting for this for years. It seems like every earnings call, we're on the cusp, we're almost there. But we never actually seem to get there. I'm starting to become a doubter, where before I used to be, it'll be here before we know it. and my car is going to pick up my kids at school. Well, my last kid is graduating high school this year, and my car is definitely not picking my kid up from school for me. Back to you.
Thanks as always for your call, Brian. I would be curious if you'd feel the same way if you had a hardware 4 car, an AI 4 car. I don't say that as a dig, of course. There are so many hardware 3 owners that Tesla has to take care of when the time comes. But as someone lucky enough to have both a hardware 3 and a hardware 4 car, to me, the difference between the two is stark, and that difference is only widening now with the AI 4 cars getting version 14. I've had that for, a couple weeks now. I also wish, Brian, you could try out the robotaxi service. I'm extremely privileged to have access to it here in the San Francisco Bay Area as the second market to have it. But boy, it is impressive, and I wish you could get a look at it. So all of that said, and I recognize maybe I'm just being a Tesla fanboy here, I would say, yes, I do believe Tesla is going to solve it, and they're going to do it first with one potentially significant caveat, and it's one I've brought up before, and it's weather. Is a vision-only system going to work in for instance, Pennsylvania winter? Tesla has not proven that at all as of yet, and it is a really big hurdle, at least on paper, for a vision-only system. So I think in the sunnier climates, it's happening, and it's happening soon. For regions with inclement weather, there is still a lot left to prove. Take care, Brian. Thank you so much, as always, for your thoughtful calls. Next up this week is Joel from Florida. Go ahead, Joel.
Hey, Ryan and Pets. This is Joel from Florida. I called years ago about a Cybertruck question, and I never got the Cybertruck, but I did get a Model 3 for an awesome price. It was a perfect price point. So, question, Model 3, with my wife and my 13-year-old son, I'm thinking about taking a road trip up in, I'm in Florida, thinking about going up to Niagara Falls and actually driving and going on the North Bay, and then over to Sault Ste. Marie and down through Wisconsin. I grew up in Wisconsin, so it's going to be nice to see that country again. So I'm looking at over 3,000 miles and about 2.5, maybe up to 3 weeks. And just wondering, is that even a good idea with Model 3? It looks like there's chargers all the way up. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but comfort-wise, we're going to pack light. I'm just wondering if has anyone been on? I'm sure people have been on road trips that long, but have they absolutely hated the Model 3 after going that far, or are they actually happy and still comfortable with it after a 3,000 plus mile trip? Just curious if you've heard anything. Thank you, and always look forward to listening to you every week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Joel. Thank you for calling in. This sounds like a really fun family trip. I say go for it. If you find your Model 3 comfortable in day-to-day driving, I think it's pretty unlikely that you're going to find it much different on a long road trip, especially with autopilot/FSD to help you out. Just make sure that you've got all-season tires on the car, which, unless it's a Model 3 Performance, it's already got all-season tires, and that those tires are in good shape. And then I would also say, just as a general road trip thing for any car, maybe buy a tire patch and repair kit and a compressor to bring with you just in case of any road hazards. And I think you're going to love the car more when you get done with this trip rather than potentially less. So Joel, have a fantastic time. And as I always say at the end of every episode, happy electric motoring. Finally this week, the last call I've got time for is another regular caller. Always good to hear from him. Here's Robert from Texas responding to my comment about Tesla not having any vehicles on the roadmap past 2027 or so. Go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Ryan, it's Robert from Texas. Just listening to your show just this past week, talking about what new cars might Tesla have for 2028. And I actually think what they should do is a regular truck. I think we have to be honest, the Cybertruck's an amazing car. It's so innovative, incredible features and everything, but I just don't think that most people are ready to go there, and the cost is so high. I think with a regular truck, Tesla could deliver something really interesting, and you might wonder what the differentiation is. I actually think the differentiation is the full self-driving. I mean, think about someone who uses a truck, works all day, construction, hauling things, whatever. At the end of the day, they're exhausted, tired, and they've got to, or they either have to go home or they got to go to a site, which might be quite far away, hour and a half, 2 hours away. I think the FSD is the game changer. And that allows someone to work with their contractors or, ordering materials or doing whatever they can in their car while they're on their way to work, on the way to site and back. Anyway, so that's the differentiating feature. And if only Tesla breaks that for a while, that could be the difference. In addition to, obviously, they can make a great truck. Thanks. Appreciate your show. Bye.
As always, Robert, I appreciate your call. Elon did say a number of years ago at this point, I guess it was in the wake of the Cybertruck unveiling, so it would have been late 2019 or maybe sometime in 2020, that if people didn't like the Cybertruck, that Tesla would make a quote-unquote regular truck. And thus far, the numbers suggest, unfortunately, that people don't like it, or at least they don't like it at its current prices, as you wisely noted there. The key with a normal truck, of course, would be that it would need to be priced reasonably. So presumably that would be easier without steer-by-wire, without 48-volt low voltage, without 800-volt high voltage architecture, without rear-wheel steering, and maybe even without air suspension too. Unfortunately, as I've been talking about in recent weeks here, it doesn't seem like Tesla plans to make anything with a steering wheel on it after the new Roadster, and therefore it could be normal in every other way. But if Tesla made a so-called normal truck that was fully autonomous with no inputs, I fear that that might be a bridge too far for a lot of buyers. So we'll see what, if anything, happens, but I'm not sure if Elon would want to build a so-called normal truck at this point. Tesla's last normal vehicle was the Model Y 5 years ago now. In fact, almost 6, because it shipped in March of 2020, so it's just about 6. Since that time, we have had decidedly abnormal vehicles. We've had the Cybertruck, of course, the Tesla Semi, which is sort of out, the Cybercab, which is going into production in April, and the new Roadster, which is apparently, quote-unquote, more than a car. It's insane, whatever it is. So none of that I would call normal, but we'll see what Tesla does. And yeah, I would not bet on Tesla making a normal-looking truck, but that's one of those cases where, I'd love to be proven wrong. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody that kindly took the time to call in and with your questions, your comments, your discussion topics. If you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic, I would love to hear from you. There are 2 easy ways you can call in. I gave you both of those at the top of this segment, so refer back to that if you need to. As for what's going on with me and my Tesla, which I've named the Soul of Adventure, well, not much, honestly. It's expected to be a rainy weekend, so no car activity planned, no car washing planned, and that's fine. That's all good. I'm still having fun with Dispatch, the game that I think I told you about on last week's show. All the episodes are out now, all 8 episodes. They're about an hour each. I'm halfway through as of recording this, and I really want to get done. I don't know if I'll get done this weekend, but I'm having an absolutely fantastic time with that game so far. But how about a different entertainment recommendation for this week? This is not a new show. It's one that I've just discovered. My wife, in fact, recommended it to me, and I finally decided to dive in and give it a shot, and I've really been enjoying it. I'm only in season 1 of what is currently 4 seasons, but the show is called Hacks. It's on HBO Max, and it is about a comedy writer and an older stand-up comedian. 2 women who kind of end up, the writer ends up working for the older established rich and famous comedian, and they clash and they butt heads, and it's been a fun first season so far. So if you need, and they're only 30-minute episodes, so if you'd like a no drama, just a fun 30-minute easily digestible comedy, give it a go. Now for your pro tip of the week, it comes from the owner of a new Model Y, and his name is Mike in Oklahoma City.
Hey, Ryan, this is Mike in Oklahoma City area, a.k.a. Okie Tesla on X and YouTube. I'm a new Tesla owner, got my new Model Y May 21st, and drove out the X takeover and had a great time, heading up to Pikes Peak later this month for another great time. I've been playing around with FSD and was kind of frustrated with the deviation in the max mileage or max miles per hour I had set, and been reading a lot and listening a lot, and your podcast has been very helpful on getting me up to speed on EV vehicles. But one thing I did notice, I set 0% over speed limit in the FSD settings, and then I would roll the scroll wheel up 5 or 6 miles over the limit to get to where I wanted to go. But by accident today, I accelerated to like 46 miles per hour, just manual driving. Then I hit the right scroll wheel to go to FSD, and it set the max speed at 46. I tried it a few more times and realized that if you just accelerate to the speed you want to go over the limit and then press the scroll wheel, that automatically sets your max speed without having to roll up the scroll wheel up and down when the speed limit changes. So I don't know if everybody else knows that or not, but I certainly found it out by mistake today, so I thought I'd pass it along. Really enjoy the podcast, and the Tesla community is a great community. I'm thrilled with my new Model Y and hope to learn a lot more. Thanks.
Mike, welcome to the podcast and welcome to the Tesla community. I am very happy to hear that your new Model Y is treating you well so far, and that you've been putting some miles on it and getting out to some events. That's awesome. I am going to go ahead and count your call as a pro tip, even if it's maybe more of a PSA than anything else, because I bet you that not quite everybody knows that if you're manually going faster than your max offset speed, and then you activate, which was 0 in your case, and then you activate FSD, the max speed will be set to whatever speed you were going. And I guess maybe this tip is going out of style as version 14 continues to roll out, but for anybody still on 13, hopefully that is of use. And if anybody has a useful pro tip of the week for your Tesla or any other EV, I'd love to hear it. I would love for you to call in and share it with me so that I can in turn share it with all of you, with everybody else. So if you've got a pro tip of the week, please feel free to call in with it the same way that you call in with a regular Ride the Lightning hotline call, which I gave you the instructions for just a few minutes ago. Before I go this week, let me mention some friends of the podcast that can hopefully be useful to you. And in fact, specifically right now, I know I always say like, oh, maybe useful to you sooner or later, but it could be sooner in this case. AbstractOcean.com, who's got so many great aftermarket Tesla and Rivian accessories, is currently having a Black Friday sale, 25% off of orders up to $150, 30% off of orders over $150. I will be honest with you, I am not sure if my discount code is able to stack on top of that, but it can't hurt to try for an extra 15% off. Or if it doesn't work, well, guess what? You can still get 25% off here on this Black Friday sale on the orders up to $150, and if you're spending more than that, 30% off. So head on over to abstractocean.com. They've got so many great Tesla and Rivian accessories. Let me click on the refreshed Model Y accessories here and just see what we've got. There's, again, the big one, the ultra premium tempered glass screen protectors for all the cars. You've got, let's see here, again, all those Cybertruck Expel armor pre-cut pieces to help keep the non-stainless pieces looking great. There's the puddle lights with the Tesla wordmark logo or other options. There's the ultra bright lights for the refreshed Model 3, just kind of moving to other vehicles. So meaning the inside of the car, those accent lights, just all sorts of stuff. And you just head on over, see what you like, click on which car you have, see all they have, and then pile it all into your cart. And when you get to checkout, you can try the code RTL podcast, all one word, no spaces. And if it doesn't work, well, again, you'd still be getting 25 to 30% off in their Black Friday big sale. So abstractocean.com. And if it works with that sale, use the coupon code RTL podcast, all one word, no spaces. The snap plate available at everyamp.com/RTL. This is available for, gosh, they've really expanded here. They're on everything. They've got them for Teslas, Rivians, Chevys, Cadillacs, Fords, Polestars, Lexus, Subaru, Toyota. The Blazer EV, the Bolt, the Cadillac Lyriq, the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Polestar 2 and Polestar 3, just all kinds of vehicles that they're supporting now with their snap plate and the newer, stronger snap plate. Plus, I'm a big fan of these products because they do not stick with automotive tape to the front of your car if you either want or are legally required to have a front license plate on your vehicle. So use the nice minimalist design, but secure when it's on, snap plate or the newer, stronger snap plate plus. To get it, go to everyamp.com/RTL or just click the link in the episode description and use the coupon code RTL at checkout for a discount as well. If you're in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, treat your car to a spa day, if you will, over at my detailer, Immaculate Reflections. They are running, as always, the discount for Ride the Lightning listeners. So you can reach out through the website, which is irdetailing.com. And when you do that, you will make sure to mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener so that any service you have booked in will have that Ride the Lightning listener discount applied. Maybe you want ceramic coating so that you don't have to bother with wax for the next 5+ years. Maybe you want to do paint correction, get that paint finish looking as good as it possibly can. Maybe you want to do paint protection film on the front of the car or all of the car potentially. Whatever the case may be, the place to start is irdetailing.com. You'll see right on the front page, either in the very top left, you'll see Contact Jeff, a link there. There's a phone number, or right in the middle of the page, you'll see a big red button that says Inquire/book here. And then there's a nice, easy form to fill out on the website. Finally, my Patreon. Let me mention that one more time, if you would be so kind as to humor me there. Patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Again, you can also just click the link in the episode description. That is the best way to support this podcast if you see fit to do so. And my hope is that eventually, if you've been listening for weeks, months, years, that you will feel like that I have earned your support on Patreon. You'd super be helping me and my family out by contributing on Patreon. The support tiers start at just $5 a month. And for those $5 a month, you'll get, in return as a thank you, an ad-free episode as well as early access every week to that ad-free episode as well. If you step up to the $10 per month tier, which is the most popular one, you'll get the ad-free early access and access to the entire stash now, 160-something episodes of those lightning round mini episodes that I do each week exclusively on Patreon. So one more time, the link is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. And if you're not already following this podcast on your favorite podcast service, I recommend that you do so, because that way, every time there's a new episode, you'll get a push notification letting you know, hey, there's a new Ride the Lightning. All you got to do is tap that push notification, and you'll be listening in no time. Makes it nice and simple. So you can follow me on any of the big podcast services, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube Podcasts, etc. To find me on those, just search Ride the Lightning Tesla. You should see this podcast pop right up, and then just click the follow button, and you're all good. Finally, you can follow me on X and or on Instagram. The username is the same in either place, and that username is DMC_Ryan. You can also email me anytime about any Tesla or EV related stuff. My email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Finally, allow me to say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers before I head out this week. I'll start with the Roadster in Space tier. Big thanks to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Ralph and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, Doug Carey, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. Next up, the Maximum Plaid crew. A big thank you and shout out to Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Kenneth Corbett, Brian Bertoglio, Kim Bay, Troy Sievers, Chip Hooper, Matt Chinander, Robert Moran, Rav, Christopher Mann, and Michael Williams. And last but certainly not least, the grandfathered in plaid level supporters. Big thank you to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And with that, we've reached the end of the 537th official edition of Ride the Lightning, your weekly Tesla and EV podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I am ready to pass out, so I'm going to try to do that fairly soon. But I'll be back raring to go for you next week. Of course, every Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, unless you're with me on Patreon, in which case the show is typically waiting for you when you wake up on Saturday morning. Because by the time, it'll be done, it'll be uploaded to Patreon by what? Let's see, at least tonight, 8:30 p.m. Pacific. So maybe I'll catch some of you Patreon folks still up on the West Coast. But otherwise, for all of you kind Patreon backers, it's waiting for you when you wake up Saturday morning. Anyway, happy electric motoring, my friends, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.